Hey friends, welcome back to Geeky Sanjay. Today we are diving into how to authentication in Java Spring Boot. I'll explain all the code in detail while showing you a step-by-step tutorial on geekysanjay.com. This tutorial will help you create and understand basic authentication in just 30 minutes. I won't be writing any new code today because I have already done that in my tutorial. Instead, I'll just explain how everything works step by step. We are making a simple app for handling user authentication. It has three parts: signing up, login, and logout. We will test it all using a tool called Postman because we don't have a fancy interface yet. But before we dive in, let me explain the basic steps of how Spring Boot works to make it easier for you to follow along. So whenever we are creating any app in the Spring Boot, we will follow simple step. First, we will create all the model in models folder, including base model. Then first, we will create our controller. Inside of controller, we will create a method, and one more method with the same name we will create in the service file. So we will call the service file in the controller, and in the service file we will write our all logic, and service file is connected with the repository and models. So we will create object and get the data from the models, and we will connect using repository. We will save the data, and we have to filter something. We can filter from the repository and create an object and return to the controller, and controller create a response and it will return to the client side like a main method. So this is the basic flow of the Spring Boot. Now first, as you can see here, we have a step 1: create a project, download it and extract and open IntelliJ using file and projects. Okay, so the first step is here. We will create a Spring Boot project from the initializer. For this, what we will do, we will open Spring Boot initializer, and first we will select the Java, then we will use Maven. Any language you can use, but we are using language as a Java and project as a Maven. Spring Boot version 3.2.5. Group, we will write it down here: user, artifacts, user services, name user services. Whenever you write artifacts, it will take automatically name user services, and description simple auth app, and package name is created with the combination of group and artifacts. Next, we will choose the package jar. You can, if you want, you can choose bar also, but we are working, so we just choosing the jar. And the Java version we are choosing 17. Why we are taking 17? Because 17 version, if we will choose, then it will support minimum version of Spring Boot 3.0. So we will include the dependency. Normally click on here, add dependencies, and just type whatever you have to include. It will come, and just click and you can take it. So I have included 6 dependency here. I will explain one by one quickly. So first dependency is Spring Web. It is very important. Okay, and it is required because we are creating API and we are exposing the API and we are creating web app. So this is very much required library. Next, we are using Spring configuration processor. It is required to configure Spring Boot. Like whenever we are creating application.properties, inside of that we will configure our database and other JPA properties, which we will look after some time. Next, we have a Spring Data JPA. This is used for the SQL whenever we are connecting and creating automatically table and we are getting the data. This plugin will help us. This dependency will help us. Next, we have a Lombard. The Lombard is used for the getter and setter. Normally, we have to create multiple getter and setter. So for creating the getter and setter, we will use this Lombard. It will automatically on runtime create all the getter and setter, whatever property is there, private properties, it will create for that. Next, we have a Spring Boot dev tool. This is required to be run our local environment. With the help of this, we can test and run our app on the local. Okay. Next, we have a MySQL driver. MySQL driver is required to be connected with the MySQL. So we are using MySQL here, that's why I taken a MySQL driver. If you are using another DBMS, you can just use that driver. So this is our basic setting for the project, and we can click here generate button and it will give you the zip file which you can take, extract on your local and open in the IntelliJ. Let's switch to IntelliJ and we will see there by importing this project. So here I open the IntelliJ and I have a IntelliJ Ultimate version, and I will give you, I just let you know the good feature what I will use for this Ultimate IntelliJ. So first we will open our project. Simply click here, open, and select whatever project you downloaded and extracted it. We already extracted it, okay, and here we are selecting the POM file and we will open it and open as a project. So whenever you are opening it, we will open a POM file. Why we will open the POM file? Whenever you are opening the POM file, that time it will install all the dependency whatever you included in the project. So that's why whenever you are opening a project, use the POM file to open it. So I just walk you through this folder structure, what it will include in that project. You can see first we have a data, okay, it will use for the data of the our project, okay, and here we have a Maven libraries, whatever we will install it will included here. And now we have to work on this src. In the src you can see we have a two folders, main and test. Inside of the main we have a java and we have a com.user.userauth. So we will work on this com.user auth, okay. Here you can see we have a user auth application. This is our main file which will run our project. So whenever you are creating any file, any folder, you just create inside of this directory with this file. If this file in another directory, then you will get the error. So keep in mind you have to keep all the files here only. So I already created a project, so I just explain you quickly by the my tutorial, okay, one by one. So you can see all the details is here. So now move to tutorial and we will see what is the next step. So as we already created our project and we just open in the IntelliJ, now we will go to the next step. As we have written here, add the database detail, okay, and there is a file src resource application.properties. So we will just go there in our project and we will see where is this file located, and we will copy this code from here and we will paste it there and we will understand what this code is. So here we are in the IntelliJ and you can see here the resource folder, and here we have a application.properties. So we paste all the content here. So by default you can get it because this is the name of application and this content we already copy from there and paste it here. So the first you can see data source .url JDBC MySQL 127.0.0.1.3306. So this is the default URL of your MySQL which we have to write on all project whenever you are connecting with the MySQL. And you can see at the end this is our database name. And the next you can see here we have a data source username. So this is the default root name of MySQL. Whenever we install the MySQL we have to give some username and this is the default username we will use. Next we have a default password for this root users. So I am using this. You can use or you can keep blank whatever is there. Next we have spring.jpa.show SQL true. So what it will do, whenever we make it to true, that time whenever we are running any API, that time it will show all the details in the console related to the API. Okay, it will very helpful for debugging. Next we have a spring JPA Hibernate DDL auto create. So it has a different version. I am using here create. Instead of you can use also update is there and create drop is there. So I will tell you quickly what these are. First is the create. Whenever we are starting our application, it will create a database. Okay. So every time whenever you are restarting, it is recreating your database. Okay. Next we have a update instead of the create. So what update will do? Update create once first time, and next time whenever you are changing anything here in your files, okay, like you have a class in the model. Whenever you are changing something here, it will change in database based on the date. Only changes it will update, rest it will keep the same. Next we have a create drop. So what create drop will do? Create Simply here you can create and drop. This is you have. So what it will do, first it will create, and whenever you are stopping your project it will drop it. Okay, so every time whenever you are starting your project it is creating a database, and whenever you are closing your application it is dropping it. So we are keeping it create here. And next you have a server.port 8080. Okay, now here we have a basic configuration which we will use in this application.properties. And next we will go back to our tutorial and we will see what is the next process. To understand this application.properties, now we will go to the next start the MySQL server and create a new schema named auth service. So we will go back to the IntelliJ and we will see how we can do it. Now we are again in the IntelliJ, and as I told you I am using the ultimate version. Here we have a one facility, we can connect our database from this ultimate version, because this facility is not available in the community edition. So as you can see in the right side we have a database option where we directly connect. We don't require any other software to do it. One place in the right side we can open the database. Next we can click here, go to the view. Inside of the view you can see in the tool windows, and here we have database name. So we can open from here or either we can open from the right side. So I'm clicking here, you can see this database open. Now we have to connect with this source. So what is the source? Source can be anything, any DBMS like MySQL, SQL, Oracle. So I am using MySQL, so I will connect with the MySQL. Simply click on this button plus, click on the data source and click on the MySQL. If you are not finding here, you just search below. So after clicking on the MySQL, you will get this pop-up. Inside of this pop-up, we have to only set the username and password. Rest we will keep the default. As you can see, host, local host, we can keep like this. Port we have 3306. This we will use, and authentication type user and password, and username we will write default username we are using root. Okay, same we are using in our application.properties file. Next here we have a password, so we will write our default password whatever we have written in our file. Okay, next we will test this connection by clicking here, and this URL you can see jdbc mysql :/localhost 3306. We already put this in our application.properties file as a database URL, and now you can see this connection is succeed here. So we connected with database. We click here OK. So now it is connected, and whatever required plugin it will automatically, you can see here preparing for the connection. It will install all the Java plugins whatever is required to connect with database. So as you can see here it is loading here. After loading we will create a database and start working on it. So as you can see we already connected with the localhost. Now we will create a database. Simply right click on it, create on new, and you can create a schema, and whatever schema name you want you can put it here. Okay, so I'm just keeping this demo schema underscore name and I'm making it okay. So now you can see the schema name is created. Simply I will go to application.properties. I will change the name here. As you can see we have created successfully our database using IntelliJ IDEA. So you can create only if you have a ultimate version. This is the paid version which I am using it here. So if you want to use this ultimate version, I already created one video how you can activate and take a license. I will show you that video I just put video link in the description. Please watch it and active your subscription if you are from Scalar. Now if you don't have this ultimate version, then we can do it using the community edition. For that normally you have to do the MySQL Workbench, and with the Workbench also you can do the same thing. So I will open the Workbench and I will show you how you can create it. So as you can see here we have a MySQL Workbench. Here simply click on this and put your database name auth services and click on the apply. Now this is created. As you can see here left side, auth service is created. Currently it is empty, there is no table, and we will connect with our project and we will see whenever we will create all the models and all table created automatically inside of this. So this is now simply you created your database from the Workbench. So I showed you two ways to create database. First from the IntelliJ idea. Second is the Workbench. Now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see the next step and we will go ahead. So we have created our MySQL database. Now the next create a simple controller to check if everything is working fine. So this is the testing controller we are using before starting our work. So whatever setting we did and whatever we have created till now for checking, we just simply create this REST controller there. So I will copy from here and I will go to the IntelliJ idea. We have some notation here, REST controller. So we will use this REST controller whenever we are using in the Spring Boot. So we will use the REST controller. If you are creating inside of the Java, you have to use the controller. We have a public class HelloController. So we are using here get mapping. At get mapping annotation, you have a at post mapping annotation at put. Okay, so we have a different type of annotation and we will use based on our requirement. So this annotation provided by the Spring Boot framework, as you can see here in the top. Next, we have created a method. Whenever we are calling this hello API, this method will run and whatever we are returning from here, it will show to the browser. You can see we have a default file user auth application. Simply click on this and run our application. You can see below our application is building. After building the application, we will just go there in the Postman bake and check our application is working or not. So we will test this in the Postman first and we will see our application is working or not. So here you can see we are in the Postman. What is the Postman? Postman is used for like sending data, mocking data of our API. If we do not have any UI with us or we do not have like in the browser, we only can check the get. And if you have to check the post and anything like you are sending the data, so for that you require some UI to send the data using the form. But we have not created and we are doing the backend. So this is the tool which we can mimic the same thing using this Postman. Okay. So as you can see here we have a Postman and simply click on this. You have to just go to the internet, search Postman, install on your system and create your account with your username, your email, and it will give you two versions. First version you can install on your system. Second, it will give the web version. If you don't want to install, you can simply work on the web version. But if you are continuous working on the Postman, it is better to keep it local. So why this is too much popular? Because you can create collections and you can share this collection with your team, collections of the API. Here you can see we have this API and simply click on here HTTP localhost 8080 hello and click on this send. This is sending the request, and if we will get hi, it means our API is working fine. So as you can see here, we got a response hi. So this API is successfully working. Now application is working, and if we have to save this in the collection, simply what you can do, click on this save and you can choose the collection from here. We have a request name. I will just put here get hello. Simply you can select the new, you can create a new collection. Because I already created a collection authentication, I will save this inside of that authentication and just save it. So I saved my API endpoint inside of this get hello. So like you can create a collection, and whenever you have to share something, you simply export this collection, and the other developer just take the same file and import in their Postman, and he will get all the API you have created endpoint URLs. So like that you can share your collection to each other. So this Postman is very useful, and I will create one video on it detailed video, so I will tell you all the feature of this Postman. So now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see what is the next process. So we have successfully tested our HelloController. Now we will start our application, and first we will create here the package model, and inside of the model we will create first base model class. Okay, so just copy code from here and go back to the IntelliJ and create a model folder and then create this base class. So here you can see inside of this com.user.userauth you can create models package. Package and folder both is the same. This is just a convention name which you can just saying here in the Java. So we created here base model. Inside we just paste our code. So as you can see we have a multiple notation here. First notation is map superclass. So whenever we are creating any base class, that time we will write it down map superclass, and whenever you are writing this notation you are saying to the JPL like you don't have to create table for this class, okay, because this is the base class and it will be shared across all other tables. Okay, next in this base class we will write it down the common properties. Okay, like as you can see here we kept only one field here, public long ID, and this ID will work as a ID of all table. So to make it ID as a primary key for other tables, simply we have to add this notation add ID. Whenever you are adding add ID, it will tell JPA this ID will work as a primary key for other tables. And next you can see here generated value, strategy, generation type, identity. So what is the generated value? This is simple. Whenever you are creating your ID, so what strategy you will create for that ID, it will tells you. So you have a multiple like identity, auto, and different types of this strategy, and I'm keeping the generation type dot identity here. Okay, what it will do, it will normally whatever database you are using, it will take a best algorithm and create ID for you. There is one more thing, generation type dot auto, that also used to be create automatically, and one more is there serialize, that also you can use. So I'm keeping this identity. This is the popular everyone using most of the time. So we have created our first class inside of the model package base model. Now we will go back to the tutorial and we will see the next process. So we have completed this map subclasses. Now next we will do it quickly. So as you can see here we have a next class role. So we just copy from here and we will create there. The next class we have class token. Simply we will go there, copy this post and paste it there. I will tell you everything whatever written here in some time. And the next we will create a create user. As you can see here we have these classes role, token and user. So first we will just go in the role class. So here we have a notation entity, add entity. So we will apply this add entity notification, tell to JPA this class will be the table of database. Okay, and if you want to name something you just simply type like this and create name, and whatever you have to create your table name you just create here. So whatever name you will put it here, it will create with this name only. So I'm keeping it default. Okay, so I'm not writing it here. And you can see here we have a getter and setter. This is coming from the Lombard, and it will create automatically your getter and setter at the runtime. And the next you can see role extended base model. So we extended the base model, so ID we will get it from the base model class, and we are keeping only name here. The next token class we can see here. In the token class same you can see entity, to create as a table, getter, setter, and token extended base model. We are keeping here one value is deleted, expiry date, and we are keeping private user. Complete detail I already written in the tutorial. You just read it. You will understand why I am written here. What is this many to one? This is the relationship. So whenever, as you know, whenever we are creating in the class, we have two type of field. One is we have a primitive type, another we have a reference type. So whenever we are writing the primitive types, simply it will work as a value, but whenever it will work as a column inside of your database. And whenever we are creating a reference, so that time we have to tell the relation with this class. Okay, so one to many. So what it will do, it will create one ID in another. Okay, so normally what we will do in like this, we will create one ID in the many side. Normally what we will do, we will create many's ID to one side. Okay, so if it is many to many, then it will create a new table, mapping table. So this is your cardinality which we will have to tell. Next we will come to the user. So here you can see we have an entity name user, getter, setter, and we extended the model class, and we have a name, hash password, email, and many to many. So many to many relation with this private list roles. Okay, and private boolean is email verified. So we have created coordinate many to many. So how it is many to many? This role. So one user can have multiple roles, and one role can have multiple users. So M to M. Okay, whenever you have to create the cardinality, you have to see first we are in the user. So first we will keep in the user place first as user. Okay, next we will keep the role which is connected with this like this. Okay, so here below simply you can see one user can have M role, means many role. Then next you have to check one role can have many user. Okay, and whenever we are doing here, so you can see, so one and many, so we will take M, save, colon, and here we are taking the M. Okay, so M to M, many to many, like this you can create the cardinality. So we have created all the models. Now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see what is the next process. So here as you can see, we already created our all models. Now the next process, I told you, whenever we are creating any new feature, we will start with the controller. Okay, so we already created a controller package there whenever we tested our first controller, HelloController. Now we will create another controller. We just copy code from here and we will paste there in the user controller. So here you can see inside of this controller we have this user controller. Okay, and here we have written some method. I will explain you what is this. So here you can see we have a REST controller. Whenever you are creating a controller, we have to use this REST controller because it is provided by the Spring Boot framework. Next you can see here we have a post mapping sign up. So we have created one API using the post mapping. Post mapping because whenever we are signing up, that time we need a data to save in our database. That's why we are using the post mapping. Before this, we use the get mapping because we do not want any data. We are showing some data. That time we use the get mapping. Okay. So this is the notation we used here, and just after notation, whatever we have written, it will call that method and it will show the data based on that method. So we have here first method public user sign up. Okay, here. So here we are taking the request body and sign up request DTO. Okay, so what is the DTO? DTO is simple POJO object. Okay, like old Java object. Okay, so it will use to only transfer the data one class to other class. So as you can see here, we have created DTOs. Okay, and we have created sign up request DTO. So we will come it later. First we will understand what we have written here. Okay, so here you can see we have string name, and we are getting the data from this request get name. Then we are just getting get email, and we are putting data here in the email. Next we keep sign up request DTO get password, and we are storing in the password. Now we have these three fields, and here you can see we have a user service dot sign up. So I told you at the starting we have a flow. First we will create in the controller base method with the same name. We will create the same method in the service file. Okay, so we have created one more method inside of the service file. So here we have copies this simple code. Now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see what is the next process. So we already understand this sign up method there. Now next two things to consider here. We need to create a sign up DTO and the user service. As I already told you, we already uses here this DTO and the service method. So here we have a data for the DTO. So create a package named DTOs, and inside of create a class called sign up request DTO. So we will copy this data, go back to our file, and here we will create a package DTOs. Inside of this we will create this sign up request DTO. Inside of this sign up request DTO, this is simple object which will transfer data from one class to another class. Okay, so we are not creating this as a table. So we have not added any notation like entities or controllers or service. Okay, simply we have added two notation here, getter and setter, and it is required to create get and set because as you can see we keep all fields private like name, email and password. So why we kept it private? Because we don't want to give our access. If we will keep the public, so you know the identifiers public, private, default. Okay, so we are keeping it private so no one can directly access it. If he want to get access, he can only get using the getter method, and he can only set using the setter method. So now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see the next process. After creating this sign up request DTO, we have a next process creating the user services. For the user services, we have to create a package named services. So here we in the services file simply we keep the sign up method. Okay, and this sign up method we normally called in here in the user controller. So this is the flow we are following here also. In the sign up, I told you we will create an object from the models. So we have created new user because we have to return user from here. Okay, so I have created a new user and I am getting the data whatever sent from the controller. And here you can see in the controller, here we are getting this request body. Okay, so it will come from where? It will come from the either it will come from the UI browser, and if we do not have a browser, then we will send this data from the Postman. That data we will get it from here, and we will just assigning to it here and passing to this method. And inside of this service file, we will get all the details like here name, email and password, and we have created one instance of the user. We set user.setName, user.setEmail, and user.setHash password, and you can see bcrypt password encoder. So this is the new thing for you. So I told you in the starting, whenever we are just in dependency, that time I told you we will add one security dependency later on. First, what you will do, we will go back to our tutorial and we will follow the steps. So here in our tutorial, as you can see, the next step, we have created a service package and inside of the services we have created user service. Okay, inside we have a, I already explained all service file whatever we did inside of this. So here you can see we have a decrypt password encoder. So this is not a default Spring Boot feature, we have to install dependency for this. Like, so simply go in the Google and type this decrypt password encoder maven, and you will get first or second link maven. Click on that. This is the link you can see here, Spring Security Crypto. Inside of this simply you will get like this. Okay, and here you have to click the 6.2.4, the latest one, and whenever you click this you will get the data like this. Copy this dependency and just simply paste inside of your POM file. After putting in the POM file, you will get this icon in the right side. Click on this icon and it will load your dependency inside of your IntelliJ. It will install it. So here you can see in the POM file, we copied that and we paste it here. Here you can see. We paste it here. The button will come here inside. Click on that button. It will install the dependency in your package. Now we will go back to our tutorial and we will see the next process. So this service file we already put it there, and we can see we have a sign up method. Inside of the sign up method, before this we have created auto wire of this decrypt password encoder. So I already written here, as you can see here. So as you can see here, next let's create a package called config. Okay, so whenever we are using the third party and we want to auto wire, that time what we have to do, we have to tell the Spring Boot we are using it as a bean. To doing this, we will create a package name called config, and inside of that we will create the name of configuration. This file name can be anything, but we are keeping the configuration to understand we are doing some configuration there, and we will define the bean of the third party library. So whenever you are using the third party library and you want to auto wire that, you have to create a bean. So we will go back to our IntelliJ and we will see. So in the IntelliJ you can see we have this config folder. Inside of this we have a configuration file, and we have written this annotation. You can get it from the tutorial. I have written all in very detail, and we are keeping one configuration class. You can name it anything, and we have written one decrypt password encoder. Okay, so decrypt password encoder method is returning decrypt password encoder, and we are creating a new object of it, and this notation is important, this one and this one. So what this configuration notation will tell to Spring Boot configuration file, and this bean will tell whenever you are loading the project, that time you have to create this bean so we can use the auto wire. So what is this bean? So whenever we are giving any annotation like entity or controller or services, so we are telling Spring Boot whenever you are loading, you create one object and we can reuse the same object in all our application. That is same like we have created like a singleton. So single object we are using multiple places, so we don't have to recreate everywhere. So now we will create a bean. Now we will go back to our user service file and we will see what data we have. So just avoid this login, we will see it later. We are just keeping this sign up because we are working on the sign up flow. So in the sign up flow you can see we already created this new user. Inside we set the name, set the email, and here set as password. We cannot set the password as a string, because if we will save the password as a string, this is not a good practice, because admin or any other member of the team can see the password. So always whenever you are saving the password, encrypt the password. So this bcrypt password encoder, what it will do, it will encode your password. So whatever string you are passing, it will run the algorithm of bcrypt. Okay, and it will just encode your password and create some random numbers. So we are setting in the user and then you can see we have a user repository. We have to create one repository. So we will go back to our tutorial and we will see the next what is the step. A service file, we already have a step here. Next, within the repository package, create a class called user repository. So here you just come and create this repository folder. Inside of this, simple create this user repository. So we have at repository, and this is the interface, and it is extending JPA repository user long. Okay, avoid this method for some time. I will tell you why this method is here. So what it will do, it will directly connect project with the database. So whenever you are creating a class and you are querying any database query, fire the query, it will give you default queries and you can get the data without writing a single line of code. That's why this JPA repository. So in the JPA repository, we normally pass our class and the type of our primary key. So we will go back to our tutorial and we will see what is the next process. So we already created repository. We have created a config file. We created a bean file. We make it auto wire and the sign up method is done. Now this is the complete flow of sign up. We will test this sign up in the Postman. So simply we will write it down localhost 8080 sign up. Okay, and all thing I already written here. Simply in the body section select raw and then JSON, provide some data in the body like this and click on the send button and you will get the return back the user object. We are here and I already created here this post method sign up one. So this is the benefit of the collection. We can come anytime and like it save all our data whatever is required. So you can see we have selected here method as a post. We have multiple methods and our URL here we put and simply click on this body raw type and click here JSON. Okay, we have a different type here, text file, JavaScript, JSON, HTML, XML. We are keeping JSON here. Okay, and here we have a multiple types like form data. So whenever you are sending any form data from the UI, that time you can select if you want and mimic that form data. But we are sending a JSON object, so we are selecting JSON here. So we have written the JSON. As you know, JSON is nothing simple. It is a JavaScript object. Only a single difference in the JavaScript object, you are not using this double quotes in the property and you are keeping only in the your values. But here you have to apply the double quotes in the property and value also. Okay, only this is the difference between JSON and the JavaScript object. So I have written here and simply click on the send button. So as you can see, we got our user object back. So we have created this object and we have saved in our repository. Okay. So we send the name Sanjay, hash password, it is converted in the hash and this is the email. Okay. So this is password is converted by the decrypt password encoder. Okay. And here we pass the email, roles we keep the null and email verification we have a null, a false. Okay, now we will go back to our database and we will see is this working or not. As you can see in our database, we just select here and refresh it and we just open this auth service. In the tables we have all the tables, role, token, user and user roles. So as you can see, it created a mapping table user roles. Okay, inside of this you can see the columns role ID and user ID. So here you can see here we have created many to many. So I told you whenever we created a many to many, it will create a mapping table. So it will created a new mapping table with the user and role. So now this all table is created and here I have first select our database using this. So we have selected. Now we will run our user. So we should have one user there. Here you can see we have one user with email verified 0, ID 1. It is auto generated ID. We send the email shop 24i and we have a hash password, and here we have a name. So now the sign up is successfully done.